Commissioner Shannon Portillo, good evening and welcome to our May 5th, 2021 Douglas County Board of County Commissioners business meeting. I want to welcome any of you who are at the Douglas County or joining us online. I'll just pass on how we'll run our meetings on Zoom during this time of social distancing. If visual aids are used during the meeting, the presenter will share their screen with the call. Participants will not be able to view them without a computer, smartphone, or tablet. All participants will be entered into the meeting with their audio muted, meaning the commission and the public hear you. Presenters will be unmuted when their agenda item. We ask that all online presenters use good conference call etiquette and mute their line when not speaking and introduce themselves each time they speak. If you have a public comment on an agenda item or under regular public comment, please use the raise your hand function on Zoom. Staff will call on you and unmute you. For the minutes, the county reserves the right to shut off the microphone and remove any speech vulgar, rude, or inappropriate. The chat function has been disabled and a recording of this meeting will be available on our website after the meeting. And it looks like we are going to start quite a few proclamations this evening. We have 5 of them, so I'm hoping we can just rotate. I'll do the first one. I'll pass it off to Vice Chair Commissioner Reed, who can pass the next one on to Commissioner Kelly, and we will proclaim that May is a very full and robust month full of important things. Sound good? Okay, so we will start with Sheriff Armbrister's proclamation declaring May 2nd through 8th as National Correctional Officers Week in Douglas County. Sheriff Armbrister, would you like to say anything before we read through the proclamation?
I do not really. Thank you so much for having us. And I feel like these missions are a little bit kind of one of those, every week should be an appreciation week for everything that everybody does. But it is still nice to hear from folks when good jobs are happening. And I think this year has been unique to say the least. So thank you very much for having us.
So with the Office of the County Commission proclamation of National Correctional Officers Week, May 2nd through the 8th. Whereas during this trying time in our country and our community where race, equity, justice, and humanity have been brought to the forefront of the public conversation, those who work diligently behind the scenes need to be recognized. Whereas May 2nd through 8th, 2021 is National Correctional Officers Week, and the men and women who do this thankless job deserve our thanks and appreciation. They stand their posts quietly within the walls of our correctional facilities all over the country. Whereas right here in Douglas County, our correction staff has answered the call day in and day out, not only during the normal course of their duties, but especially over the deadly pandemic. Whereas nationally, we learned of correctional facilities with rampant COVID-19 outbreaks. Here in Douglas County, our staff met this problem head on, and to date, we've had only a few positive cases and no outbreaks. Thinks about until something goes terribly wrong. Our staff has provided yet again that when this community needs us to do our work at an elite level, they'll do exactly that, and it's simply what we do. Now therefore, be it resolved that the Board of County Commissioners of Douglas County, Kansas, hereby proclaim the week of May 2021 as National Correctional. And we urge the citizens of Douglas County to join us in recognizing and honoring the women and men who work in the field of corrections. Thank you very much, Sheriff Armbrister, for all that you and your office do.
Thank
you. Do you have comments from any of the other commissioners? Okay. We will move on to proclamation declaring May 2nd through 8th as National Travel and Tourism Week. Commissioner Reed, if you want to take it away on this proclamation.
Thanks, Commissioner Portillo. Do we have anybody here to provide a presentation for, oh, I just saw somebody patched in.
Yes, Kurt, we have Kimberly Ansbach with Explore Lawrence here to accept this proclamation.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner. Sorry, my connection got weird there and I bumped in and out. So thank you. My name is Kim Ansbach and I'm the Interim Director of Explore Lawrence. We are the Tourism Bureau for Lawrence, Kansas. And I would like to start out for thanking the Commission and the County for the vital support that they gave our industry in 2020 through the CARES Act grant funding. Explore Lawrence received 2 of those grants to distribute to our hotels and to market Lawrence as a safe place. And then we also helped with the administration of the Lawrence Restaurant Association grant. And I want to express our deep gratitude for that. That funding really did make a huge difference and was vital in our businesses through 2020. So that said, this year we are celebrating the power of travel with National Travel and Tourism Week. And that is the power of travel as an economic engine for our communities and for our tax base. So as we begin to welcome our visitors back, we are joining once again with our Rise Lawrence group and the Lawrence Promise to get messaging out to our graduation visitors that we expect over the 2 weekends in May for KU graduation. It's looking to be a very busy weekend for our hotels, and we are making sure that we are safely welcoming those visitors, that we are communicating the health guidelines in Douglas County. A lot of them are coming from places that no longer have the mask mandate. So we're working with the Douglas County Health Department, the City of Lawrence, the Chamber, and Downtown Lawrence, the Lawrence Promise, and get welcoming messaging and also gently reminding folks of the importance of keeping themselves and our community safe. So I do thank you for having me this evening and for declaring May 2nd through 8th National Travel and Tourism Week and celebrating the power of travel in Douglas County with me.
Thanks so much for joining us, Kim. I'll go ahead and read the proclamation. Office of the County Commission Proclamation of National Travel and Tourism Week, May 2nd through 8th, 2021. Whereas a robust travel industry provides significant economic benefits for Douglas County, with $272 million directly by travelers to Douglas County in 2019. Whereas travel has been the foundation of a healthy workforce, serving as one of the largest private sector employers, supporting 3,764 jobs in Douglas County in 2019. Whereas spending state and local governments alike, generating $24.5 million in tax revenue in 2019 to support essential services and programs. Whereas last year, the coronavirus pandemic devastated every sector of the travel industry with staggering declines in 2020 compared to 2019, affecting every community in the country, including Douglas County. Whereas the power of travel will revive Douglas County and the United States and drive us forward to a more prosperous future. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of County Commissioners of Douglas County, Kansas, proclaim the week of May 2nd through 8th, 2021 as National Travel and Tourism Week, County, Kansas, and urges the citizens of Douglas to join us in recognizing this critical role this industry plays in the county. Thank you so much, Kim.
Thank you.
Okay, our next is for the week of May 2nd through 8th. And it is the supporting schools and staff of Douglas County. And I see Lori Lang is on the call. Hi, Lori.
Start my video now? Oh, there it is. Sorry.
Yeah, your video is not on yet, but we can hear you.
Okay. I'm getting there. There. Can you see it? No. Okay.
There you go. Now
All right. Well, thank you, commissioners. My name is Lori Lang. I'm at 504 Ohio in Lawrence, Kansas, if you needed that information. And just briefly, a few months ago, I read about a ribbon campaign that Sedalia, Missouri was doing for their healthcare workers. And I thought it sounded like a great idea and wondered, how can we Lawrence to encourage her? Because I mean, who hasn't been affected by COVID by the last year? To shorten the story, I found a few friends to talk about ideas and make some plans and had some other conversations. And we ended up choosing to use the first week of May, which is national every year as Teacher Appreciation Week, to broaden that, because even though, of course, teachers have been affected and had to have had a ton of extra work asked of them, everyone involved with teaching our kids has had to do more, from clerical to custodial to food service administrators, everyone. So we are calling, so that's what we are doing, is honoring all the staff in our schools. We also tagged literally onto the DGKS Hope hashtag that the web wellbeing branch of the county's Unified Command response team sign. And so we made it countywide. So we've contacted the communities of Baldwin, Eudora, Perry Lecompton, even though Perry technically is in Jefferson County, but about this campaign. So here we are, and I have to confess, I've never done anything like this before, and it shows as we actually tweaked our name a little bit last week, and it didn't get changed on the proclamation. So it's actually more people focused now as supporting staff of Douglas County schools. And that also affected our designs of our signs and graphics. So we're waiting to get them hopefully tomorrow. But anyway, what the ribbon campaign is just something that's helpful, and they can be creative, use what they have, draw or print out a ribbon design, hang in their window, or cut a little piece of ribbon, put on their lapel, cut a t-shirt up, or not as environmentally friendly, but a white trash bag, or just to tie around a tree or a lamppost in their yard. Just something visual that the people working in our schools can see and be encouraged by. So the main thing is just to do something that as a community we can show our well-deserving staff our appreciation and support in this visible way as they go about town, stop at the store, to work each day. I hope we're laying the ground this year for a larger participation next year. We're still getting the word out, and this proclamation will help do that. So hope that the citizens can be encouraged to do what they can, and that we will all be better for it.
Thank you, Lori. I really appreciate all your work on this. It's my honor as an educator, so really, really appreciate that. Whereas, let's get it right first, and we'll get you a proclamation here with the correct title on it and get it signed. Sorry about that.
Commissioner Kelly, you're muted.
Yeah, there we go. Too many buttons. All right. Proclamation for supporting staff of Douglas County Schools. Whereas the past year, we've all been impacted by the pandemic, and whereas the impact extends to the education of our children, which is a vital part of the present and future of our community. And whereas the pandemic has changed how our K-12 students receive instruction, necessitating our teachers, support staff, and administrators to adapt the changing requirements and situations. And whereas to acknowledge their endeavors, we want to show our appreciation in a visible way to school staff members, teachers, paraprofessionals, administrators, and those providing clerical, custodial, food, IT, and transportation services. And whereas a ribbon campaign has been planned to coincide with the National Teacher Appreciation Week to support these hardworking staff members. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of County Commissioners of Douglas County, Kansas hereby proclaim May 2nd through the 8th, 2021 as the week of supporting staff of Douglas County Schools, and encourages our students to join in this countywide campaign by simply tying a ribbon at their home or displaying a printed ribbon loop in the window of their residence, vehicle, or business, or wearing a lapel ribbon as a visual sign of support, and to share pictures of those displays at hashtag DGKS_schools and at hashtag DGKS emoticon heart, adopted this 5th day of May 2012. Thank you, Lori.
Thank you so much.
This is Commissioner Portillo. So we will move on to our proclamation declaring May 2021 as
Oh my, we may have lost Commissioner Portillo.
I'm telling you, you hit the wrong button.
And you go. Maybe while she's rejoining us, someone could step in and help us with National Preservation Month.
I'm happy to do that. I see we have Jan on the call.
Maybe back.
Oh, there she's back. All right.
This is Commissioner Portillo. That was very weird. I got downgraded, so I could see you all, but I was no longer in the panel. But happy to be back, and thank you, Jan, for joining us for the proclamation for National Preservation Month. Would you like to share anything with us before we read the proclamation?
Just like to say good afternoon, commissioners. And on behalf of the Heritage Conservation Council, we continue to celebrate 10 years of work since the council was created by the commission in 2011. And spring is always an exciting time for us as we announce our grants from the National Cultural Grant Program and kind of kick off heritage tourism and public programming that takes place over the summer. So I just also would like to add that we celebrate preservation we have partners at the national level through the National Park Service, Secretary of the Interior, the State Historic Preservation Office, Douglas County government, and then most of all, we can't forget all the grassroots efforts by people who reside and work in our county who work to preserve our history and our significant sites. So thank you for the opportunity to have the proclamation included today.
Thank you very much for joining us, and I will read the proclamations. The Office of the County Commission Proclamation, National Preservation Month, May 2021. Whereas historic preservation is an effective tool for economic development, sustainable development, heritage tourism, revitalizing farmsteads and neighborhoods, fostering local pride, and maintaining rural and community character while enhancing livability. And whereas historic preservation is relevant for urban and rural communities across the nation and for Americans of all ages, all walks of life, and all ethnic backgrounds. And whereas it is important to celebrate the role of history in our lives and the contributions made by individuals dedicated to preserving the heritage that has shaped us. And whereas Douglas County, Kansas has recognized the importance of protecting cultural resources by establishing the Heritage Conservation Council of Douglas County, the National Cultural Heritage Grant Program, and the Historic Resource Survey Plan, as well as by providing educational opportunities for the public, supporting the listing of properties in the National Register of Historic Places and the Register of Historic Kansas Places, and supporting the Douglas County Historic Barn Assessment Program. And whereas Douglas County, Kansas announces the release of the first Douglas County landmark tour developed by Freedom's Frontier National Heritage Area in collaboration with the Heritage Conservation Council and the Santa Fe Trail Historical Society of Douglas County, that will serve as a heritage tourism tool in celebration of the bicentennial of the Santa Fe Trail for use by the general public via a smartphone app. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of County Commissioners of Douglas County, Kansas hereby proclaims May 2021 as National Preservation Month in Douglas County, Kansas. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Reed, would you like to round us out for our last proclamation of the evening?
Absolutely. Next, we have Mental Health Month, and I'm wondering if anybody is here to give us, make some comments about that.
I believe we're going to be moving over Patrick Schmitz, CEO of Burt Nash Mental Health Center, into the panel. Welcome,
Great,
Patrick.
thanks, Sarah.
Commission Chair Portillo, Commissioners Reed and Kelly, County Administrator Plinsky, staff, and my fellow residents of Douglas County. Thank you for sharing this time with us tonight to recognize May as a Mental Health Awareness Month. Thank you for the opportunity to join you virtually. I'm Patrick Schmitz, CEO of the Burt Nash Community Mental Health Center. And as we celebrate Mental Health Awareness Month, we are glad to be part of a caring community that has a long history of supporting mental health services. For more than 70 years, the Burt Nash Center has been providing mental health services to the residents of Douglas County. And each year, we are honored to serve approximately 5,000 adults, children, and families in our community. You can read about some of the lives that have been changed in our 2020 annual report, which we debuted at our annual Pioneer Celebration last month, also held virtually. When 2020 started, no one could have foreseen the challenges, uncertainties, and hardships we would all face. At the same time, in the face of unprecedented adversity in our lifetimes, we adapted, adjusted, and we persevered. It's hard to imagine a more difficult and challenging year for us as a community, as individuals, and as a center. And as excruciating as this past year was, I'm excited about our future. Transitions opened in March. Construction on the Crisis Center should be completed by next February, and people continue to receive the COVID-19 vaccine. I've really never been prouder of the Burt Nash Center team, our integrated care partners, and our community than I have been during this past year. We came together, we supported each other, we overcame barriers, and we found creative ways to deliver much needed services despite obstacles caused by the pandemic. Of course, because of increased anxiety and depression people are experiencing, the availability of mental health services in our community is more important than ever. I am grateful for our collaborative and supportive partners like Douglas County. But of course, we couldn't do what we do without the dedicated and talented Burt Nash Center team. I am so proud of the life-changing work they do every day, responding to needs, restoring lives, and building a healthy community. Thank you again for your continued support. Thank you for recognizing Mental Health Awareness Month, and I will turn it back to you, Commissioner Reed.
Thank you so much for joining us, and honored to be the person who gets to read this one as somebody who works with folks related to their mental health day in and day out, and who has seen the impact of that since my childhood. I'm grateful for the work that Burt Nash and so many other community partners are doing. Okay. Whereas the U.S. Surgeon General states that mental health is fundamental to health, personal well-being, family, and interpersonal relationships, and contributes to community and society. And whereas while mental illness affects 1 in 4 Americans in a typical year, regardless of age, gender, race, ethnicity, religion, or economic status, the COVID-19 pandemic has negatively affected many people's mental health, triggering new mental health conditions for some and exacerbating existing ones for others. And whereas the U.S. Surgeon General has found that a range of treatments exists for most mental disorders, and the efficacy of mental health treatments are well documented. And whereas Douglas County, Kansas has made a commitment to an integrated system of mental health care for all residents. And whereas the guiding principles of community mental health care have always been comprehensiveness, cost efficiency, effective management, and high quality and consumer responsive services. And whereas Mental Health America, the National Council for Community Behavioral Health Care, and the Burt Nash Community Mental Health Center observe Mental Health Month every May to reduce the stigma and raise awareness and understanding of mental health and illness. Now, therefore, the Board of County Commissioners of Douglas County, Kansas, do hereby proclaim the month of May 2021 as Mental Health Month in Douglas County, Kansas, and call upon all citizens, government agencies, public and private institutions, businesses, and schools to recommit our community to increasing awareness and understanding of mental illness and the need for appropriate and accessible services for all people with mental illness. Thank you, Patrick.
Thank you all. Be well, stay safe.
This is Commissioner Portillo. Thank you all for working through those proclamations. It is wonderful to see how much is happening in the month of May. We will move on to the consent agenda. Would either of the commissioners like to pull anything from our consent agenda?
Go ahead,
Go
Commissioner.
ahead, Commissioner Reed.
Commissioner Reed here. I would like to pull off the 2021 Natural and Cultural Grant recommendations and have a bit more discussion.
Thank you, commissioners, and Jan Schubert-Eric will be joining us to talk through those. And I do appreciate. We sometimes put this one on consent and sometimes we put it on action. So I appreciate Jan this opportunity for us to be able to highlight this work. So I'll turn it over to commissioners to sort of ask some questions of Dan about the recommendations.
This is Commissioner Portillo. Sarah, do we finish with the consent agenda and then go to this item because it's now a regular agenda
Yeah.
item?
Very
Okay.
good catch. Yes, let's go ahead and vote on and then we can take this item though before public comment. If we want to go ahead and do it that way.
That would be great. Commissioner Kelly, was there anything else you would like to pull from the consent agenda? I don't
Nope,
know if there's much
that's
left
what
on
I
our
want.
consent agenda now. We have minutes and accounts payable. I'm going to assume that no one at the courthouse wants to pull either of those items.
Correct.
Okay. So I'm looking for a motion on our consent agenda.
I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve our consent agenda items 1 and 3.
Second.
All of those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. So we will now move to item 2.2, Administrative Services, the 2021 Natural and Cultural Grant Recommendations. And Jan, if you'd like to provide some background on this.
Sure. Sarah asked if I might just talk about the process of the grant program. So each year, the Heritage Conservation Council reviews the application and guidelines, and that's done in the fall. And then those are approved by the commission. I believe at the last year was the November or December meeting. And every year we like to launch the program the first week of January. So January 1st, everything was released to the public, and applicants were invited to attend an information session, which was also recorded and posted. It was on Facebook and the county website. So there were other opportunities for people to get that information. And then between then and the end of February, approximately, I met with all applicants in a one-on-one Zoom call, or some of them, I think, were also in person, social distanced when possible. Especially the outside things, that makes it much easier. So then the applications were due on March 10th. And when I received them, then they were forwarded to the 7-member advisory group, which is the Heritage Conservation Council. And so they, those 7 members individually read through all of those 14 applications. Then we held a series of 4 meetings, 4 public meetings. The first 2 meetings were half of the applicants presented at each meeting. So they presented, and the council had opportunity to ask questions or to ask for further information. Then we followed up with an additional 2 meetings with, they were open meetings, but applicants couldn't speak at those meetings. And that was just public discussion about applications, programs, each project, and then eventually trying to figure out how $200,000 of our $285,000 budget would be spent on these applications. I've been with the council since, I think the first round I was part of was 2015. And I think this was a very strong set of applications. And it totaled over $410,000 in requests. The council likes to encourage collaborative efforts when possible. So applicants are not just asking for county dollars. Applicants bring volunteer time, other types of resources, matching funds, and so forth to projects whenever possible. We also like to look at how the grant funds are distributed across the county. And also how they're distributed between historic assets, building structures, that type of thing, education programming, and also our natural areas. So I can just tell you that the council met 56 hours in public meeting time as a body. And then plus all their extra time. And they really labored over how to divide up the resources. So I'd be happy to, try to answer any questions you might have about individual grants or overall philosophy or whatever your questions might be.
Commissioner Reed here. Jan, thanks. I really appreciate that step-by-step through the process. That was part of my curiosity, this being the first
Sure.
time that it's come before Commissioner Portillo and I, just kind of knowing. I knew that the applications had been released at the beginning of the year and that there were some public meetings. So it's helpful for me to kind of know what to predict kind of in the future at the process. Another question I had was, I think you spoke to it a little bit, just the decision making around trying to balance between historical building and site preservation, natural and cultural and educational based activities. So I guess I just wondered if you could speak a little bit to, and I think there are a lot of applications and awards in this year's list anyway, that speak to issues of racial equity in the county.
Sure.
So I'm just curious about, racial equity and then just equity in general in terms of economic equity and rural and urban issues. And I know that those are balanced. I wonder if you can talk to us a little bit about what that council's kind of framing or philosophies behind trying to apply that lens to the considerations.
Thank you for all of those questions. The council has really spent a great deal of time talking about equity over the last year. And we really promoted this program partially in helping to tell the untold stories of Douglas County. And, it's a balance between, preservation of physical things and preservation of stories and history and that sort of thing. But yeah, if we look at the 13 funded or recommended for funding, we talk about racial equity, we can talk about the Vinland Cemetery sesquicentennial. The Harvey family members are there, and they came up out of slavery into Douglas County and created a successful life here, and they still live here, and they were all educated at KU. A tremendous story about how they came to the Vinland area, and that's a small project. We also have the Lawrence chapter of the NAACP coming in for really, I think, a beginning project on African-American burials in Douglas County, and gathering that information to be able to tell the stories of African-Americans in this county and pay tribute to their stories, which are really mostly invisible in our history. There's a lot to these projects, so I can't talk too much about all of them, but Mr. Flores's project on being a farmer of color, I think is going to be, and his physical work on the land, plus his ethnographies, his stories about his farming experience as a person of color, I think will really add to the depth of understanding of our agricultural history in Douglas County and our current, situation in agriculture. That might, help move us into the future. We also have the Good Morning Indian Country project at the Lawrence Art Center, which is just going to be, I think, a breath of fresh air for Lawrence to the Art Center to host this program for Native Americans, but also to educate the rest of the population about Native American issues. That's going to be a tremendously successful project. Let's see, and St. Luke AME, we're providing some of the remaining funding to finish the entire exterior, which is, that project is a great example how many of our projects, we give them a little bit of funding or, maybe a significant chunk of funding, but then they go out and they find other funds from the state, from, federal grants, from Lawrence Preservation Alliance helps them fundraise. But this will help them finish the exterior for a building that is really a community center. It's not just a church. It's been part of the, community in the neighborhood. And so that's a significant accomplishment, I think, for Douglas County to have had a part in that. So does that?
Yeah, that's great, Jan. Thank you. And I thank you so much for highlighting some of those. And you lead me into my other question, and then I'll let other commissioners chime in if they have any questions. Since you mentioned, that many of the projects, both this year and historically, HCC funds are a piece of the puzzle for most folks, and that they may be getting funding from elsewhere. So I was thinking about a few of these, like the Friends of Oak Hill Cemetery / City of Lawrence, and KU Center for Research / City of Lawrence, kind of listed. I was thinking about those and wondering, in those particular projects, since City of Lawrence seems to be maybe in part an applicant, I don't know if I was totally clear on that, but curious if you can speak to whether or not those. And then the other one that stood out to me was Baker University, wondering if they were leveraging institutional funds elsewhere for those projects, or if they're solely
Okay,
funded.
so let's see. Let me go to my list, because you have several there. So
is number 1 and number 3.
yeah. So the Friends of Oak Hill, City of Lawrence. So that was one that was really difficult, and they only got a small portion of what they requested. The consul appreciates the work that the Friends of Oak Hill have done to try to move the attention of the community and the city, I think, to the condition of Oak Hill Cemetery, because there is much work to be done there. They wanted to support the work of the Friends, but they also felt that the city has an opportunity to apply for funds especially from the State Historic Preservation Office, and they have not done that this year or ever for Oak Hill. Maybe I could be wrong about that. They did not do that this year for Oak Hill, I'll just say that. And so that was a big discussion, okay? But we all know ultimately that Lawrence is part of Douglas County. But on the other hand, we want all of our organizations, all of our nonprofits to go out and go after whatever grant funds are available for preservation work in our county. So that's what they're trying to encourage too, with the message back to Friends of Oak Hill and the city. The Pollinator Project / KU Center for Research, right? The Kansas Biological Survey, that Pollinator Project, they only funded a portion of that. Because again, it was city property. And even though, pollinator projects are really critical right now with global warming. So they wanted to support that project in some way, because we know we're in environmental problems, So they wanted to be supportive, but also to share a message that, we need to find other funds for these properties that are owned by the city. Okay, and does that answer those two?
Yeah, that does. Thanks, Jan. I think it's helpful to know, it sounds like you all, HCC is so well versed in the statewide or perhaps local municipality, or maybe even federal dollars or other opportunities for people to leverage some of those funds. It sounds like you all are really informed about that and trying to encourage some of those connections or So that's good to hear. I think that I was just curious. I was a little surprised, and again, without having the historical reference of going through these recommendations before, with the number of projects that seem to be attached to either cities or universities, institutions that I would think might have other funding resources or staff that might be seeking out those funds, kind of side by side with some real grassroots, sometimes single project developer.
Yeah.
And in the instance of Mr. Flores's project that you mentioned, and that being very grassroots and not institutionalized, and some of the other projects are just very great, small community based. You even spoke to it earlier in your introduction, a lot of kind of grassroots folks doing preservation and conservation and heritage work in the community. So I think I was just curious about how the council weighs sort of what some organizations or agencies access to other funding sources are. Sounds like you guys are pretty acutely aware of that and having those conversations with applicants. So that's helpful, Jan. Thank you.
Well, I really appreciate you raising the question, because I think it is an important question, because we try to be very responsible with all of our funding. We really have a small program and we try to do a lot with it. And so these dollars are really important to us. I would like to speak just briefly about the Baker University Archive Project. That Baker Orange newspaper is in the archives in paper copy only, and it has a ton of local community information in it. And if you know Baldwin City, you know that Baker and Baldwin City and all, it kind of goes hand in hand with the community and preservation. And through this project, they're going to be able to purchase a scanner that will be available for other projects around the county. So anybody could go in and use it. It's an important thing. There was no other funding to do that scanning project. And we did have comments that for people who are writing National Register nominations and they want to learn about the community through different eras, these kind of community newspapers are really important to be able to read through and get a sense of what was going on in the community in different time periods. So, and that was, I think, a $5,000 project. So it seemed like we would long-term get a lot out of that for the county and for the Baldwin community, which really has a rising interest in preservation at the moment. And they just became a Kansas Main Street community. And it looks like we're going to actually hold a 2-day preservation conference in Baldwin City at the end of July, if SHPO will give us the funding for it, which I think they will. But so that it kind of all goes together. And with the Santa Fe Trail Historical Society also, and their relationship with Baker. Santa Fe Trail Historical Society is really the Baldwin City Historical Society, basically. They do a lot with almost no resources. So you're right when you say, grassroots doing a little bit and then institutions coming forward with grant requests. So it's a wide range of applicants. But I also must say that it's really important and advantageous to the county to have, University of Kansas Research Center, Kansas Biological Survey, some of these, places that have professional people that have really helped us identify our natural resources, especially our natural resources. So other counties don't have that. And so if we can support a project that helps keep maybe a staff member on board during COVID, I don't know. That's probably a good thing long term too. So as you can tell, it's not black and white.
Nothing ever is.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jan. That's super helpful.
Thank you.
Other
Thank you.
commissioners, please, if you have any questions.
Jan, this is Commissioner Kelly. I appreciate Commissioner Reed's questions and her pulling this item so we can celebrate these really great projects and also to celebrate the council members who volunteer so many hours to look over these and take great care and I'm sure have many connections to the people making these requests and making those choices I'm sure are difficult. I just have one question, and my question was about the Wells Overlook project a little bit. That is a significant amount. I mean, it's over a quarter of the grant dollars. And I think it's a great project, but I'm just interested in how you feel like it fits in with our greens, the discussions we've had about green space and, how does that fit in? You and I have had some sort of online conversations about this. Is this part of HCC's work? Is it part of where does this fit in? Can you just talk about that a little bit? Because
Yeah.
it's exciting, and I think that's what we want to do. So just tell me the group's thoughts on that.
Yeah, well, first of all, the leadership from the Kansas Land Trust, I think, was really critical to bringing this project together, and the generosity of the Lastmans, who own the property around Wells Overlook Park, which is one of the most extraordinary sites in the county. And that family gave the land for Overlook to the county initially. So now the generosity on their part is that they don't want the land around that to be developed. And so working with Kansas Land Trust and raising money for the easements around that property, that ensures that the Overlook will always feel, like a special place, essentially a county park that's being protected through a private easement. Easements are important. I believe before I came in as the program coordinator, there was an easement in north side of Eudora that provided the easement on the land where the water wells are that provide water to Eudora. And so that was the last easement, I believe, the council funded, very significant easement. But yeah, ideally there would be a fund of money, a pool of money for easements for this type of thing. And then that would leave money for the Heritage Grant Program. It is a big, a percentage of our $200,000 for grants. But they felt the importance of it, and they didn't want to lose the opportunity to contribute to it and to make sure that it happened for the county. So thank you for that question.
Thanks. I just, it's not really a question, maybe it's more of a comment. So I'll wait till we get to the comments and voting section of our discussion. Okay.
This is Commissioner Portillo. I don't have any additional questions. I do want to thank both of my fellow commissioners for asking such insightful questions. It's helped me learn a lot more about the process. So thank you, Jan, for all of the answers. I will open it up now for any public comments that we might have. Sarah, do we have anyone at the courthouse for public comment on this item?
No, just general comment.
No, we have no one to speak on this item here. Thanks.
Thank you. Jill, do we have anyone online to speak on this item?
Yeah, the first person is Mike Delaney. Mike, go ahead.
It's Mike Delaney. I'm this year's chair of the Heritage Conservation Council. And I didn't want Jan to have to take all the responsibility for explaining the council's decisions, but specifically with respect to the Wells Overlook project, there was a unanimity on the council about the importance of this project. The idea that the property that surrounds the Wells Overlook might someday be subdivided into 30 ranchettes just seems so inappropriate for a park like and sort of a irreplaceable asset like the county's parkland there, the Overlook itself. everybody concurred that this was an important use for this year's projects. And the expense really goes to the sort of the perpetual enforcement of the easements that will run with the land, so that in some jurisdictions, the county would be responsible for, for protecting its own parkland. In this case, the land trust is going to protect the development rights, the rights that have been given up in the property around there, and make sure that 30 years or 40 years from now, people that stand on the overlook will be able to see the same vista that they see now. And I think that was a big project. There was some discussion about the fact that it elbowed out some other worthy projects, but I think the consensus clearly among the folks on the council was that this was a really important opportunity that just couldn't be lost.
Thank you. Jill, do we have any additional public comments?
No,
So we'll close public comment and bring it back to commissioners for discussion. Commissioner Kelly, it sounded like you had some comments.
Yeah, I would just, I think we need to keep moving on this green space idea, and how I think this is the pressure that comes in, that these grants are really designed, and I can see the connection here. I truly do see that connection, and think we need to use these grant funds to do it, to take advantage of this. I'm not advocating against that, but I think as we continue to think about the pressures we have in the unincorporated areas and maintaining the landscape and just the beauty of that area, this is a way that we can do it. And we don't really have other funds set aside, as Jan pointed out, to do this. And so I know we've talked about it before here. I think we had some energy before COVID. We were really starting to ramp up our discussions about it. It's a tough thing to set aside funds to preserve land, but I do think we need to continue to work with the land trust to talk about what that looks like. And I think, so I just think this highlights this, and I appreciate Jan and Mike coming on and sort of speaking to that. So thank you for that. If there's no other comments, I'm happy to make a motion.
I'm good with that.
Okay, I'll move that the Board of County Commissioners approves the grant recommendations submitted by the Heritage Conservation Council for the 2021 Natural and Cultural Grant Program.
I will second it and bring it to a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Thank you. Thank you so much, Jan, for all of the time explaining everything.
Thank you for all of you. You're the best.
And we will move now to our general public comment. Sarah, do we have anyone at the courthouse for general public comment?
Yes, we do. Sir, if you could come forward, and I'll turn this around and they'll be able to see and hear you. And please state your name and address for the record.
I was wondering how you were going to do that.
Yeah.
I took my mask off?
Sure. And please speak pretty loudly so they can hear you.
Yeah. Mask. My name is Ron Wilson. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
I live in Douglas County out by Lone Star Lake. For a while, I lived out in California. While there, a person took a shot at me. That matter was taken care of efficiently and very quickly. While living in Douglas County, I have had a policeman associated with the police academy where they train policemen make a vile, hateful, sexual threat towards me. It was reported to the county, and I have stood here numerous times, and nothing has been done about it. You might refer to item number 3, where as a general notice, the commissioner will not discuss, debate, nor will the commissioners make decisions on items presented during this time. Rather, they will refer items to the staff for follow-up if necessary. I guess it's not necessary in that instance. I was at a small store, National Branch. A college-age kid pulled out a gun, pointed it directly at my gut, pulled the trigger. The gun didn't go off. I spoke to the young man about the 5-year mandatory federal prison term that he could get for that. I requested the film that was being taken. The National Branch refused to release it. I later spoke with the police. They didn't worry about it. Last week, a fireman said he was going to kill me. And you can verify that on a 911 call made 8 days ago. I filed a formal complaint. Nothing has been done. I see one gentleman and 2 women there. There's a woman in front of me and a man behind me. Concerning the police academy, would you want your wife, your husband, your 16-year-old daughter, your 91-year-old grandmother to be raped by a cop associated with the police academy where they train policemen? We have a bad apple. I'm not saying fire him. I'm saying give him some help. And I'm getting tired of coming up here, speaking of items like that, like where I've been threatened with death. And this gentleman reached into his compartment or something else sitting there on the front seat. I didn't know if he was reaching for a gun or what. I have sent pictures, given you 3 copies, 3 commissioners of the vehicle. It is a Corvette. I gave them a license number, 9402. If you look at this, I even took a picture of the guy. How hard is it to find a policeman? You know the make, model, you know the license number, and you've got a picture. Accountability. I think we need a little bit of accountability. Some action should be taken. We have some bad apples around here. Something should be done. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments.
That's all we have here at the courthouse.
Jill, do we have anyone online for public comment?
Yes, Gretchen Reed. Gretchen, go ahead.
Thank you. Good evening, County Commissioners. I just felt compelled to come on here tonight to urge you to review the current public health order. It has now been 3 weeks since the last meeting where the health order was issued, and there's more data that the county is stabilizing. So I just wanted to go over some of these details with you. You probably saw my email today, but Douglas County is currently the highest vaccinated county in Kansas. Douglas County is the most restrictive county in Kansas in regards to public health order. And I was in error in my email. We are now one of 2 counties that still have a mask mandate. I'm not sure if we're going for last place or not, but one of 2, not one of 3, as stated in my email. Looking at the health department Facebook website, what they put out, their stats, it has now been well over 2 months that the county has stabilized in COVID cases, okay? I also just want to point out, as you are well aware, that Douglas County encompasses 4 cities: Eudora, Lecompton, Lawrence, and Baldwin. And the county does not revolve around the city of Lawrence and KU. So just, I would urge you to put this on the agenda for next week to review it. You had 2 business owners in Lawrence that asked you to review it at 3 weeks, and you are capable of reviewing it at any time. I just wonder, how long does the county have to be at a stabilized rate before we lift restrictions? And then I have gone back and listened to the meeting on April 14th. And just my opinion, it sounded a lot like, you know, we are extending it because of KU graduations. Well, again, Douglas County does not revolve around the city of Lawrence and KU. There are other entities outside the city of Lawrence that would like to move on with their lives and, you know, just have the city commission or KU establish a mask mandate or rules, what they would want to do. And I would just ask you to consider the rest of the county and put it on the agenda to talk about next week. And thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much for your comments. Jill, do we have anyone else for public comment?
No.
We will move forward with our regular agenda item. Agenda item 4.1, text amendment regarding standards for solar energy conversion systems. And I believe that we have a presenter for this item, Sarah.
Yes, we do, commissioners. I believe we're going to move Mary Miller into the panel, and I don't know if at some point in time Tanya's available if we need to ask her additional questions as well. So at this point, though, I'll turn it over to Mary Miller.
Good evening, Commissioners. Mary Miller, City County Planner, and I'm here today to request the initiation of a text amendment to allow us to develop standards for solar energy conversion systems in the Douglas County zoning regulations. Staff recently met with an interested party who's considering establishing a solar farm or a solar energy conversion system in Douglas County. This would fall under the use classification of a utility, which is permitted in the county with approval of a conditional use permit. We don't currently have specific standards for this use, and so we're requesting this initiation so we can develop specific standards. It is possible to develop standards while you review a conditional use permit, but it's something of this complexity. It would be better for us to have some standards in place. So we would like to research the item and develop some specific use standards similar to the wind energy conversion systems that went through a few years ago. In the memo, I pointed out that there is a solar farm in Douglas County. It's in Baldwin City. It's a few acres and it's operated by their Public Works Department. So it actually provides electricity for their city. The standards that we'd be looking to create would not apply to accessory solar systems. You have people that have these on their roofs. Sometimes they're attached to a pole and they can operate fences or signs or lights. And these accessory solar conversion systems are currently and would continue to be regulated by the Douglas County Building Code. But the standards would apply to the large scale programs, which we call solar farms. And some of the things we'd be looking at as for the standards would be locational criteria, measures for mitigation of potential nuisance impacts, standards such as height limitations, setbacks, screening if necessary, decommissioning standards to ensure that the solar panels are disposed of timely and in an environmentally sound manner, a reclamation plan to ensure that the site, once the use is over, is returned to a suitable use and condition, and bonds would probably be required similar to those with quarries, a stormwater management plan to ensure that runoff is adequately handled, an environmentally sensitive area site plan so we can identify where environmentally sensitive lands are on the site and use this to attempt to minimize the impact from the solar farm, and a construction transportation plan to identify a route for construction traffic and any improvements that might need to be made, and also to assign the responsibility for those improvements and for the maintenance of the road during construction. The comprehensive plan recommends that we preserve agricultural land. It also recommends that we look into renewable sources of energy. And so we have these two goals, and it would be our intent that these standards would give us some criteria to help us evaluate those competing values. So we've been working and discussing this. We are planning a site visit to an existing solar farm in a few weeks to get a lot more background information. If you initiate the text amendment, it would go to the Planning Commission for a public hearing once we develop the draft language, and then that would come back to you for consideration. And so I'll be happy to answer any questions if you have any for me, but staff's recommendation would be to initiate the text amendment so we can work on those standards.
This is Commissioner Portillo. Thank you so much for that background, Mary. I think that this is really exciting, and it is another part of our 2040 plan for how we consider moving forward with renewable energy, which is great. I was surprised to learn that Kansas is one of the sunniest states in the nation. Though when I was reading that fact out loud, apparently I'm the only one in my house who was surprised to learn that. But do we have other counties nearby that have these types of codes already in place? I guess would we?
We've contacted some of those. I'm sorry, Mary Miller, planner. We've contacted some of those and gotten their draft language. And because it's always good not to start from scratch. So we're looking at what they have and seeing what looks like it'd be appropriate and comparing them. And so we'll be using a lot of that information. And we've also found some model codes that are being suggested by other states, but they provide model language. So kind of looking at all that and seeing what we think would fit well for Douglas County.
Fantastic. That was my only question.
I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Neither do I.
This is Commissioner Portillo. We will open this up for public comment. Sarah, do we have anyone at the courthouse for public comment?
We have no one here for that item.
Jill, do we have anyone online for public comment?
No.
Thank you. We'll bring it back for any discussion from commissioners. Any discussion, commissioners?
No discussion, but happy to make a motion. Commissioner Reed, I move to initiate a text amendment to the zoning regulations for the development of standards for solar energy conversion systems in rural Douglas County.
Second.
All of those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you all. Thank you, Mary. We will move to appointments. This is Commissioner Portillo. I did receive a call from Verdell Taylor from LMH talking about their diversity council. So they've traditionally had someone from the county commission who has served on the diversity council. And it was Commissioner Thellman when she was chairing the council. So he had asked us if we would have someone interested in serving on that council. It's a part of their health equity team from LMH. It is not required that it is the chair, though I am happy to take it on and would be happy to go to those quarterly meetings for the commission and report back. If there is someone else who is very excited about this, I would also happily step aside if someone is super interested, but happy to take that on behalf of the commission if you all are comfortable with that.
Fine by me. Thank you.
Same. Appreciate you taking that on.
Commissioner Portillo, I will reach out to Verdell and see if that was news to me.
Sorry, I should have mentioned it. He just called like a half an hour before our meeting.
Okay.
So I was like, oh, I'll just bring it up. Probably
Okay.
should have given you a heads up on that one. Sorry, Sarah.
So that way we can just make sure we add it to our listing and so that we can make sure we get appointments there in the right order. So I'll also reach out to Verdell and make sure we have that as a part of our listing. So thank you.
Fantastic.
And I would say, I did hear today from Kim Kreiner Ritchie, just when you think you've got Food Policy Council full, they've had another vacancy. They had an ag producer that has had to step back from participating. So I will forward more information to commissioners, but this would specifically be for an ag producer spot on the commission, on the Food Policy Council. So more to come on that.
Sarah, I have a request if it's not too labor intensive. I think it would be helpful to know about former ag producers that have already served terms, perhaps just to reference before doing any reach out to someone who's maybe already served.
Great point. Yeah, great point. We'll
Thank
get
you.
that for you all and make sure I circulate that with the information about the current vacancy.
This is Commissioner Portillo. Any other appointments to discuss? We will move on to miscellaneous. Sarah.
Thank you, commissioners. My weekly memo is attached to your to the agenda packet. I do want to point out that the latest legislative update is attached. It is it's a couple days old. There has been a lot going on, particularly related to the legislature and how they would like to spend our federal resources coming to us from the ARPA. I'm trying to follow up with that information with Stuart and bring you more information on that. And we may not know until everything's resolved in Topeka. And then would also point out that we do not have a work session next week. So we would just be starting at 5:30 for our regular business meeting. And I stand for any questions commissioners might have.
This is Commissioner Portillo. I don't think I have any questions at this time. I do have some fear about what's coming out of our legislature during this veto session. And so we'll be interested to hear Stuart's analysis as we move through this veto session.
Yes.
So thank you for sharing that update.
Yeah, I share Commissioner Portillo's concerns and also am interested to see how a shared health department enters into this conversation. That will be an interesting, as we've talked about before here, did they write the bill with Lawrence in mind or did they not? So it'll be interesting to see how that works.
This is Commissioner Reed here. I don't have any miscellaneous or any questions for you, Sarah. Thanks.
Do we have anything else for the good of the county for this meeting?
Not today.
Okay.
See you next time.
Then we will go ahead and adjourn and see everyone at 5:30 next Wednesday.
Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you all.